Japan Airlines 123 crash. Lies in accident investigation report number 2. Was the cabin freezing cold? According to the accident investigation report, a hole of approximately 1.8 square meters opened in the aft pressure bulkhead, and the pressurized cabin air destroyed the rear section of the aircraft. As a result, all cabin pressurization was lost, causing what is referred to as rapid decompression. It is stated that the cabin interior became equivalent to the atmospheric pressure at an altitude of 7,300 meters. The outside air temperature at this altitude is estimated to have been approximately -20 degrees Celsius. It is further stated that cabin pressurization was never restored, and that until the moment of the crash, the air inside the cabin remained the same as the outside atmosphere. However, if the rear section of the aircraft was destroyed and an opening was created as assumed in the investigation scenario, what would actually occur is the following. Due to the ejector effect, cabin air would be continuously drawn out through the holes in the rear of the aircraft. The openings at the rear consisted of the hole left after the APU separated, the pressure relief door, and the vertical stabilizer access panel. The amount of air being drawn from inside the cabin to the outside is estimated to have been between 200 and 400 kilograms per second. Under such circumstances, the cabin air conditioning system powered by the 4B747 engines would not function at all. The air supply to the cabin air conditioning system from the 4B747 engines is approximately 4.8 kilograms per second, which is entirely insufficient. In the first place, when cabin pressurization is not maintained at all, a commercial aircraft's air conditioning system cannot function. If the air conditioning system is not functioning, the outside air at 7,300 meters would flow directly into the cabin, creating violent wind inside. The cabin temperature would have been the same as the outside air temperature, approximately -20 degrees Celsius, and due to the wind flowing inside the aircraft, the wind chill temperature would have reached -30 to -40 degrees Celsius. This would mean that the aircraft flew for 18 minutes under such extreme cold conditions. The cabin should have been like this. In midsummer clothing, at a wind chill temperature of -40 degrees Celsius, exposed skin can suffer frostbite in about 10 minutes. For children and infants, this would have posed a life-threatening situation. However, survivor testimony makes it clear that the actual conditions inside the cabin were completely different. This is a photograph taken by a passenger inside the cabin after the abnormal event occurred. First, the 4 survivors gave no testimony indicating that the cabin temperature had dropped below freezing. Although the 4 survivors were seated in the rear of the aircraft, who would presumably have been most affected, did not testify that they felt extreme cold. The pilots were communicating with air traffic control, and the flight attendants were instructing passengers on how to wear oxygen masks. Under conditions of -20 degrees Celsius cabin temperature and -30 to -40 degrees wind chill, would this have been possible? No symptoms of frostbite or hypothermia were observed among the survivors, and no such symptoms were found on the bodies of the 520 victims. Rather than dropping below freezing, was the cabin temperature in fact maintained consistently at around normal room temperature, approximately 20 degrees Celsius? According to the explanation of perceived cold on page 9 of the explanatory booklet to the accident investigation report published in 2011, the cabin temperature dropped to -42 degrees Celsius, then recovered to 0 degrees Celsius after 2 minutes, to 10 degrees Celsius after 3 minutes, and to 20 degrees Celsius after 5 minutes due to the aircraft's air conditioning system. This is the graph labeled temperature recovery simulation shown in the explanatory booklet to the accident investigation report. The explanatory booklet gives 3 reasons why survivors did not feel the cold.
After the approximately 7 seconds of rapid decompression, there would no longer have been strong wind. Even on a cold day, without wind, one does not immediately feel extremely cold when stepping outside. The seats and ceiling would have remained at 25 degrees Celsius, and sometimes an outdoor area in sunlight feels warmer than an indoor space without sunlight. Under normal circumstances one might feel a drop in temperature, but oxygen masks had deployed and were being worn, and it is also conceivable that the temperature recovered in a short time. Therefore, it would not be surprising if the survivors did not notice the temperature drop.
KM's view. The explanatory booklet completely ignores the ejector effect that would draw cabin air out through the openings in the rear of the aircraft. It also calculates temperature recovery based on the impossible assumption that cabin temperature was recovered without cabin insulation and pressurization. In reality, the cabin temperature would likely have risen only to about minus 20 degrees Celsius, the outside air temperature. KM's view continued. If the cabin temperature had dropped rapidly from 25 degrees Celsius to minus 42 degrees Celsius, and sub-freezing temperatures had continued for more than 2 minutes, it would have been impossible for survivors not to have felt the cold and the temperature change. Those stated in the explanatory booklet are clearly lies. Why would they tell such obvious lies? There were desperate lies to preserve the scenario that the vertical stabilizer was destroyed by the eruption of pressurized air due to the aft pressure bulkhead failure. It would not be an exaggeration to say that this confirms that the aft pressure bulkhead failure theory was itself a lie.